It's time to hear the story, make the connection, learn the lesson, and gain the wisdom. Are you ready? Let's get charged and be changed. The Sister Speak Brother Break Show. Conversations on grace, healing, and deliverance. This is Marcy Bush. Come on, let's journey together. Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Sister Speak Brother Break Show. Today is a special day because there are lots of firsts that are happening right now. I've told y'all from the beginning, I am so new at this. It's like God said, let me throw you in here. You are going to swim. So excuse me if there's a lot of splashing and all that stuff. But I'm just trying to do my best to do what God has called me to do. So today is our first virtual show where my guest is in another city, and it's actually the first show that I've done in my own home, which is different. And this is the first time I am sitting in the spot where God first told me to do this show. I walked out of my bedroom one day, and this spot is straight across from my bedroom. And when I walked out, I saw a set right here. And I don't think that it was all about the actual set that he showed me, but it was to get a message across to me. And so I'm just grateful on so many levels. So the special person that I have with me today is Theo Chunn. And Theo, I have known, Theo, how long have I known you? How long you been in the family?
Look, I've been in the family for about 6-7 years.
Okay. And so Theo married one of my babies, y'all. Not one that I birthed, but one of my church babies. Theo married Michelle Wilson Chunn. Evelyn Michelle Wilson Chunn. And Theo and Michelle have 3 kids.
3.
3 beautiful children. And I have known Theo for those 6 or 7 years. We haven't had the opportunity to have a whole lot of conversations together. But you know how when you just see it on somebody, you know it. And how when you feel a connection, it's there. So that is what brings us to this conversation, because I have noticed the passion that Theo has for God and for the people of God, and especially for young people as well. And I know from experience that when you have a passion like that, it has been birthed by something. So we're here today for Theo to let us know the things that has brought him to this place in his life and is positioning him for the next place. So it is such an honor to welcome Theo Chunn. Thanks so much for being with us, Theo. I know that was a long intro, but it's a lot going on, and I'm excited. I'm excited to have you.
I'm excited. Thank you for having me. It is definitely an honor to be a guest on this show. I've watched it several times, and it's just an honor to even have the privilege to be able to speak and be alive to speak in this capacity. And so I thank you and honor you for inviting me to come.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, Theo, like I told the people, I see this passion on you. You know, I see it in everything you do. Every time I see you in person, when I catch you on social media, I see passion. I see an excitement for what you're called to do. I can tell that it's a calling. But I know that whatever we're called to do has been birthed from most times adversity. You know, the call doesn't come from just this splendor and this beauty, it becomes beautiful, but usually it emerges from some ashes. So just give us a little bit of background about, what it is that you do, um, and how you got
So thanks for that. I'm a motivational speaker and I work in a higher education role right now with students, developing structures and ensuring that their capacity, that they can reach their God-given capacity. And so even though I work in higher education and we can't necessarily preach to our students, through my work, I call my work ministry. It's not a job for me. It's another God ordained assignment that I'm in. And that really came from my childhood, growing up in a first single parent home and then went to a 2-parent home and then back to a single parent home. It was different for me, understanding that what I saw, and normally what I saw growing up was a pastor, a wife, and children, or my uncles and aunts and my cousins,
there.
and then also the Cosby Show, and watching these different role models. That's what I always dreamt of seeing and being, and not having that capacity in my home has always been one of those things. And so everything I've been connected to, whether it's being the owner of a nonprofit organization or speaking to different crowds and spaces or writing a book, and all these things that I've been able to do have been birthed out of hurt, have been birthed out of pain, have been hurt out of loneliness, trying to be validated, trying to understand, who am I in this? Who did God design? Not even necessarily liking the image that I saw in the mirror, because I wasn't perfect. And even still, I'm not perfect, but I wasn't understanding who I am and who I was. And so all of what I do now, Marcy, when I do videos and when I motivate people, sometimes that is trying to motivate myself. Sometimes that is trying to speak to myself. I had to start recording myself because messages that I would give to other people, I was freeing others, but still in bondage. I would motivate others, but still locked up within myself.
Right.
And so I had to really understand, and I'm still trying to understand fully the capacity that God has given me to be free. He just didn't give me the capacity to motivate others, but he gave me the capacity to free myself. And so I'm learning how to do that. But that all started in a small city called Gosnell, Arkansas, where I was raised. And, trying to grow from my father not being there, my father visiting the same city to visit his now wife, but not visiting his children, and really understanding, okay, what is it about me that you don't like? What is it about me that you don't love? I mean, is it that I'm doing something? And Marcy, I was young then, trying to assess who I am, trying to validate, well, he's not coming because I didn't do this, or he's not coming because I don't play football, I don't play basketball. That's one of the reasons why he's not coming. I love sports and I like sports and I can watch them, but I'm not an athletic person. And so, maybe that's why he didn't like me. And so I'm growing up with all of this on my mind as a young age. And during this time, I may have been 5 or 6, asking these questions to myself, like, God, what's going on? Like, this man don't like me. And although I had a mother who loved me and who cared for me and who gave me more, I was still needing that love from a man.
Right.
And so I grew in different spaces trying to find that void. My mother got remarried to my stepfather, who wasn't the best example. I mean, we went to church, and that's one of the things I can say. Church was the main consistency, a part of my childhood. And we went to church regularly. But Marcy, we would be at home and we would be fussing and fighting fussing and fighting all the way to church, and then get out of the car and act like nothing ever happened.
Okay.
Go to church, enjoy church, get back in the car, and start where we left off in regards to fighting all the way back to the house.
Okay.
And so that even played on me. I'm like, okay, so is this what I'm supposed to do? Like, is this what life is? Am I supposed to hide all of my hurt?
Okay.
And so then those things gave me different signs, and I started hiding different other things. I started hiding that I wanted to commit suicide. I started hiding that didn't understand what my sexual identity was, because I really didn't understand who am I? What am I supposed to love? Because all these examples that I'm receiving don't seem right. They just don't seem like it's the perfect mix. And it was just one of these things where, we didn't use mental health back in the days. So I can't really say it was a mental health issue, but it was some of these things where I just started hiding who I was and the thoughts and the feelings that I thought the church, or probably believe now, that the church could have helped, but I didn't know how to out these things. I didn't want to tell my mom, when you're not home, this man is abusing us. When you're not home, he's talking to us negatively. He's telling me things at a young age that I don't really know. He's calling me names that are degrading, that I'm questioning myself. Well, maybe that is right, because my dad's not here. So this is the only man that's in the house. So maybe that's the true thing. Maybe I am those words that you're calling me. And so now I get to this point now, and I know I'm fast forwarding, and I know you might ask me some more questions in between.
Right.
But I'm in this space now where if I can be the motivating figure to someone, if I can speak positive into someone, then hopefully that will dilute what may be going on in the home or what someone else has spoken into you. And so that's my mission. My mission is really to just add a little sunshine into somebody's day, because I never know, even if I'm going through, I want to add sunshine to somebody else, because me going through does not add to my purpose, right? It does not add, if I'm going through and I'm not giving Marcy some sunshine, then I'm not fulfilling the God-given purpose of my life. And what I'm learning is that when I do that, then I feel better. It's medicine to me to feel better. So I don't have a lot of time where I can stay down. I have to take real good notes. And I feel like I've taken real good notes in my life, in my childhood, to understand that if I ever fall back on that, I can just pull out my notepad and say, you know what, Theo, this is what you did that last time, because my purpose is calling me to greater.
Yes. So, and yes, there is a lot to unpack in what you've said. So you talk about having been in a single parent home, and then in a home with two parents, and then back to a single parent home. And I know, and we are going to be going, I think, several different ways. But one of the first things that came to mind, even as I formed that question, the beginning of that question, is that there are a lot of people who stay in bad marriages for the children's sake. But for you, what was the better experience, being in a single parent home or being in a home with two parents where there was chaos?
Being in a single parent home. I remember like it was yesterday, my mom she would always tell us, we're going to leave, we're going to leave, we're going to leave. And my sister and I never believed it. Like, we was like, okay, you know what? You've been saying that for about 2 years now, and it ain't going to happen. And I remember that day like it was yesterday. She came home. She worked at the child support office. And so interesting, we were products of child support, and she worked at child support.
Gotcha.
But she had paid all the bills for the rest of the month. And she came home and she told us, y'all, we're leaving tomorrow. This was the only night that I slept in my sister's room. And I slept in her room, and we couldn't hardly sleep.
Okay.
because we were anticipating freedom. And as I'm thinking about it now, Marcy, it feels like we were slaves about to get this liberation that we have been dreaming of, we've been praying for.
Right.
And it was something about this, her voice and her tone and her, the words that she said. I mean, it was the same words that she said before, but it was this word that she said that we believed. Um, and that next morning when we left and we were on the way to Arkansas, on the way to North Carolina, nobody knew that we were leaving. My uncles, my aunts, my cousins, we didn't know. Nobody knew. But my mother had worked so hard as a single parent mother to ensure that we were taken care of, not only that we were taken care of, but that the house was taken care of.
Okay.
And we drove all the way to North Carolina in a Dodge Dynasty. And we were all in the front because the car was jam-packed.
Okay.
But it was something about us moving here and getting into this freedom that we were better now. We had found healing. It was something about this packing up and just moving. We didn't know where we were going. We didn't know where we were going to live. We didn't even, those expectations and desires were not even on our minds. What was on our minds is that we're back together and that we know purpose, like we are in a healing state.
Yes.
But definitely a single parent home.
And now how old were you then, Theo?
I was about maybe 10, 11-ish.
Okay.
But yeah, I was about 10 years old, if I remember correctly. But that was the highlight of our life, understanding that we could be back in the role. And again, I mentioned it earlier, even at 1 year old, when my mother divorced, when my mother and my father divorced, and we were going back to this, single parent home, that was the first time. I always had this old man mentality. And so if you see me now, and if I'm an old school man, I've always had that. I've always, when we moved to North Carolina at 10 years old, I was still saying, okay, now I'm the man of the house. Y'all understand that? And I was talking to my mama and my sister like that. Like, that's how I was.
Okay.
And so even still, knowing that I had this purpose and this voice, that even my mother and my sister, who are older than me, respected, I still had some things internal that I didn't understand.
Yes.
Well, why y'all respecting me? Why y'all listening to me? And it was always in me. And so again, these foundations they've created this person who you see today.
Right. So when you moved to North Carolina, you said you were around 10 or 11. I think even in this work that I'm doing, the Lord, this healing thing, the Lord has been showing me so much how the enemy targets people in their youth. Whatever happens to us in adult is just the same trick with new faces and maybe new stations in life. But the enemy uses the same thing from beginning to end. In the beginning, he's got to incorporate them. This is my personal philosophy, and I'm still searching to find what validates or confirms my belief. But my personal belief is that every fight we will ever have, every struggle comes within the first 12 years of life. And everything after that is just a pattern. That's just my belief. I believe those first 12 years, the enemy throws absolutely everything he can throw. And then it just comes in different forms. So when you say that you were 10 or 11 when you moved, that means there are some things that happen from 1 to 10. And what I know is the enemy knows that's a vulnerable time. But we as parents and loved ones and teachers, and so many times we diminish the power behind our words and our actions. And we influence people and plant seeds that we're just doing stuff. We're just saying stuff. And we don't know that some of those things are with people for a lifetime. So if you think back to, and thank God he uses it all, and we'll get into that. But what are some of those things that were said or done to you between that 1 and 10 year period, or 1 and 12, that you remember that just really kind of gave you that gut punch and made you see something different when you look at yourself?
I think it was the hurtful things really was that come to my mind is my stepfather. I can still hear him today, and some of the things that he said, calling me names. I'll never amount to anything. You got this because your mama married me, and all of these other things. And you're a faggot only because I dress right and I my pants are up on my waist, and I'm always watching how I look before I'm telling you, Marcy, you correct. You're correct. Everything that happened from 1 to 10, this is how I move and be, because that's how my mother installed it into me. Like, she made me very conscious of how I just don't walk out of the house looking a mess. I make sure that I'm together and speaking articulate, and doing all of these other things just to not make myself look good or just to flash myself, but I care about who I am.
Right.
And so those words continually to beat in my head, even when I was a teenager, especially. I was really trying to understand, okay, am I a homosexual? Am I a straight? What does that mean?
Right.
I'm looking for love from a man, and my father's not here. So is this
Right.
where I'm supposed to be looking for love at? And
Right.
so all of these things, and then going back to them when I'm battling with the enemy, only thing I can hear is my stepfather speaking these things
Yes.
into
Yes.
me.
Yes. So do you know where that seed regarding your identity, can you, and maybe you can't in this setting, maybe you haven't, but have you been able to isolate the point at which that seed was planted?
I really don't know. I mean, it was said so many times, and the first time, you kind of ignore it, and then, you
So
know,
it was actually the
it
words
was actually the
that
word.
got it, and it, because of someone's perception of you.
Yeah. And someone
Because
who lived in my house.
yes, yes. And so again, it reminds me, you know, how I've heard, and what is her name? There's one of the female comedians who said, like, everybody used to call her crazy. She's so crazy. She's so, and like, she really thought she was crazy. I mean, her mother dealt with mental illness, but she thought she was crazy. And it's like we forget that life and death is in the power of the tongue. And we forget that, like, that spoken words are spirit.
Mhm.
And it's like that thing can get dropped in you and make you say, well, am I? Maybe you never even thought about whatever it is. But as soon as somebody calls you that, you're like, well, is that what I am? What, and your mind starts to wander. Just like you said, your mind starts to wander. Well, if they're saying this, then maybe I am. Was your mom able to, was she able to protect you in a way, because sometimes I've been in situations, not necessarily with my family, but as I got older, where I've had people in my life, and as long as everybody was in the room, everything was cool. It was copacetic. But as soon as one person left the room, the other person changed. And they
Mhm.
were nasty and they were shooting looks. And they were like, and I'm going, what is happening? So, as a child, was your mom able to protect you? Did she know she needed to protect you? Did she know the level of venom that was being spewed? Or was that something that he kind of saved for absolutely totally when she was gone?
Majority of the time, it was when she was gone. But my mother did. So she, a mother has a mother instinct. She can pick up on things, and it got to the point to where she would just take us away. We would go to different places, and as a child, thinking about it, not trying to get emotional, but it was healing for us. Like it, we would go to Sonic and stay all night. Like,
Okay.
and we would get an ice cream and just laugh and talk. And she knew
Okay.
what to say, how to say. And
Okay.
some of these things, we just never, like I said, we were that typical Black family where you don't tell nobody. And as a young age, learning this routine by seeing it,
Yeah.
that's what I did. I just didn't say anything. And to be honest with you, some of these things I didn't know hurt me and was still seed in me
Right.
until I was an adult.
Right. Because by that time, baby, it ain't no seed no more.
No,
You're dealing with a tree,
a whole tree.
a whole tree with fruit.
Hmm.
And sometimes we don't even know where the fruit has come from, but it started from that seed that someone planted through.
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you've been blessed by today's show, feel free to let us know. And if you'd like to sow into this ministry, become a sponsor, or contact us, you can reach us at 803-221-0169. Or you can email us at the ssbbshow@gmail.com. Let's continue this journey together. Missed any of our past episodes? Catch up on past shows on my YouTube channel at Marcy Bush, MarceyBush. And be sure to subscribe so you won't miss any future episodes.